Our next speaker is Mr. Robert Cowan, cartoonist, covert vorticist. You were at one time secretary of the Wyndham Lewis Society. Does anybody know anything about vorticism? It's not important. Well, it is important, but it's not important now. It's written to the note on the computer.
Is it in there?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad, sorry.
He is the world's foremost urban lexicographer. Indeed, he is the only urban lexicographer. I think one of your most significant insights is Cowan's law of the language of urbanism. And I'm going to read it. There are 10 central concepts of urbanism. At any one time, at least one term relating to each of the concepts will be in fashion. Whenever a term goes out of fashion, at least one more relating to the same concept will come into fashion to replace it. Well, when there's a new problem, what do? We take an old solution, call it something different, and we're in business once again. So, do you want to say anything about Cowan's law?
No.
Well, we're getting... No, he doesn't.
It's not appearing.
It's not appearing. Okay, it's... let's do a hot swap.
But I will start my presentation. I don't need images. I don't want to talk to you. I really don't. Because I'm preaching to the converted. What I want to talk to are the planners and urban designers who aren't attracted by the idea of coming to Winchester for a few days of looking and reflection. Robert's asked me to talk about some place checks we've been doing, and the idea of the place check is the simple idea that there's a lot to be achieved by looking at places, talking about them, seeing what we find, and saying, how did it come to be like this, and what can we do to fix it? But generally, planners and urban designers don't do that. They're involved in the process of planning and urban design, and they miss the magic that can happen by looking and talking. What I want to talk about is a few. We've spent the summer going to a few places, as we often do, looking and reflecting and seeing how Placecheck can. Thank you. How do I? Right. Thank you. So. And Jane Jacobs told us the importance of this, and in the 6th edition she pointed out what seemed to be new then, that if you want to plan places or understand how they work, you just need to look at them, go out onto the streets, see what people are doing and why they're doing it and where they're moving. We've sort of forgotten this. Placecheck is now available as an app, and it asks these 3 simple questions. There's nothing to it at all. What do we like about this place? What do we dislike about it? What do we need to work on? This is one in Bulwell in Nottingham, and what you do is we give you a link to the app. It doesn't cost anything if you're a neighbourhood or community group, and we've set up 175 in the last couple of years, and most of them are free ones for community organisations. You go out onto the street, or you can do it at home with your smartphone or a laptop or a tablet, and you can put in markers on the map, and each marker you write in the answer to one of those 3 questions. That was Wimbledon, this is Victoria in London. 3 questions, adding something I like, something I don't like, something we need to work on. It produces all the information that's keyed in on a spreadsheet, which you can download and use. So it says what the issue is, a short comment on it, a location, and who put it in, and other people can vote on it. And it's an incredibly simple way of gathering a lot of information about an area. This is one done in Bristol at the Urban Design Group conference a couple of years ago, looking at the Bristol Mile, looking at that route and seeing how well is it working. So click on one of them, strange crossing arrangement. We've also done some set up by Barry Sellers here, the hero on the front row for Wandsworth Council, use adapting Placecheck to look at new buildings, gardens, and other features proposed for local listing, which seem to work very well. Holistic city there, you see the banner. Well, the technical bit of Placecheck, everything that I don't understand, was set up by Chris Sharp in the photo on the left. Is he in the room? Very, a very modest man, but Chris Sharp is the person to talk to about Placecheck. And what do people come up with? Well, things that you expect, likes and dislikes, human interest, evidence that people care, architecture. You know, it's obvious in a way. But I suppose the thing about these items is that some of them are fixable through the planning system, and others aren't. So part of having identified what we like and what we dislike and what we want to fix, then the next question is, well, how do we do it? And it isn't just through the planning system. On the Placecheck website, www.placecheck.info, which tells you all about it, there are a list of suggestions of questions you might like to ask under 4 headings, which are the sort of familiar urban design sort of place-making headings: a special place, well-connected, accessible and welcoming place, a safe and pleasant place, a planet-friendly place, and under these headings there are a lot of other questions as well if you want prompts. But actually people don't need these prompts, and we hardly ever use them, because if you go out onto the street and ask those questions, what do we dislike, what do we like, what do we need to work on, if they're issues, those will appear without needing to say, we'll categorise them. So, a special place. Stamford, the Britain's first conservation area, a special place, but you know, it could be more special. And we look at, you know, with this street scene, zigzag lines, well, they're compulsory with signal controlled and zebra crossings since 30th of November, apparently 1973. But we can look at that and look at the different things and say, you know, what can we fix? And some things we can, some things we can't. Tactile paving, compulsory, after the DFT guidance on the use of tactile paving, white edging around the signal, not compulsory, cramped traffic signal, get out of the way of the traffic onto the pavement, not compulsory, but some highway engineer thought it would be a good idea. We were in Bedford looking, you know, what makes this place special? What are the materials? What are the styles of the building? What's the name of this type of architecture? We haven't come up with that yet. What's happening behind those is it a garage with the windows and the curtain? I don't know. What's happening? This is the cult of the bar meeting next Friday. The cult of home ownership worshipping at this shrine, maybe. A well-connected, accessible, and welcoming place. What's happening here? Well, the highway authorities have not realised that the duties under the Equality Act apply to them. Manual for streets. Some of the basics that planners and urban designers and highway engineers, particularly highway engineers, should be thinking about are set out in Manual for Streets. This is the accepted best practice. But talk to them, and for a couple of weeks people were aware of it. Some people have signed up to it, but a lot of people are ignoring it and going back to out of date guidance. I've never quite worked out what's going on in the front cover of Manual for the Street. I think it's this little car has spun off the street, and the little child is being given the kiss of life by his elder. I don't know. We need to look at places and see why they like this, and can we make a difference? So. This is the design manual for roads and bridges, a normal roundabout. A normal meaning no pedestrians accommodated there. This is from the Dorset County Council sightlines. It's supposed to be inspired by the manual for the street. No caption here, but I imagine what it's saying is that if you're a driver, if it's above 2 foot maximum, it's probably a bird and you don't have to worry about it, it'll get out of the way. And if it's below 0.6 metres, it's probably a child who will pass safely under your wheels. Who knows? This we thought, and why? Can we design out this? How do you prevent the pedestrian realm being taken over by the motor car in a brand newly designed environment? No parking, etc. You know what we mean. St Mary Redcliffe, we found, the finest church in England, said Elizabeth I, but since then given very little respect for this magnificent piece of architecture in an awful setting. A safe and pleasant place. This is Ingress Park down near Greenwich, a very fine development. And we found this in Basildon. Social housing without windows. Not from the 1960s, and of course I don't need to tell you it was award-winning. And there are actually windows, but the windows are inside in courtyards. It does nothing for at that time, no concern at all for the public realm, for the impact of the building on the street or the interaction between the street and the building. Here's another little development we saw, which 50 years later seems to be doing the same thing. They put up fences, a paling here, and they've cut off. What does the building do for the street? Nothing. It's Laurel Row, called Laurel Row, of course, because there used to be some laurels there which were cut down to build the house. And this is the officer's report. This is an extension, so they built some of it, then they extended it. And the officer said, a two-bedroom dwelling of matching materials, oh, that's good, a single parking space. The new dwelling will sit comfortably on its plot, obviously on its plot, alongside the existing, without harm to the visual amenity of the street scene of the locality. And the district, it's all there in the local plan, high-quality design, sustainable developments and specific design and amenity and landscape criteria, cross-refers to guidance. I consider the proposal, the officer writes, to have an acceptable impact on the locality and consider the application to accord with Section 7 of the NPPF, and etc. So it's good design. Now here it is on the right. Well, planners are busy. Maybe they weren't familiar with the site. Maybe they didn't have time to go there. This is Canterbury Provider. Where is the planning department? Well, actually, it's on the other side of the street. And why do they need such enormous turning radiuses so that you can, cars must be able to go around that corner at 60 miles an hour. So there's the radius that does it. It makes a long walk for pedestrians and a very pedestrian-unfriendly, Robert Huxford is always saying when we go around these places, there's bits of legislation that can fix these things. Not planning legislation, but the Environmental Protection Act 1980, duty to keep land and highways clear of litter. If you want to know how to do that, ask Robert Huxford. He knows all the legislation. He's very boring if you ask him about it. Where land is defaced by litter and refuse, an action alleging dereliction of the Section 89 duty is taken in court. It can be done. It very rarely is done. Why are there so many bins? Well, they reproduce like the rest of us. Here they are. Stop it, it's disgusting. The environment, summary proceedings of people aggrieved by litter. It can be done. But if we're serious about it, we need to look at what the legislation is. Untidy land and building. Best practice guidance. And there's a procedure. Do it. And the case study. 2002, in the days of typewriters. Former shop with residential over just outside the town centre. Complaint, followed up by the local planning authority. Warning, second warning, notice, date of appeal, none, date of compliance, fixed. Because somebody knew how to use the legislation and do small things that fix a damaged place. Waste collection. What influences the built environment, a residential built environment? Well, 90% of it is A, bins, B, parking, and the other 10% is the rest of urban design. And we haven't got a clue, but there's good practice that nobody seems to consider, containerization, but we don't take it seriously. A planet-friendly place, thinking about resources. This is the sort of thing we're building. Nearest shop 3 miles, nearest school 2 miles, footway on one side only, 2-lane dual carriageway behind the site, very narrow, high noise levels, 1 bus an hour. So we've got the National Planning Policy Framework saying how development should be well designed and sustainable, but that's not what we're building, and that's not what we get away with. So we need to ask, what is it that allows this? And it's planning policy, it's a whole load of different things. If we don't like this, if we don't think this is sustainable, good design, we need to analyse it and decide what can be done to fix it. Robert Huxford, again, is always pointing to the code of professional practice of the environmental professions, which says you must be up to speed with best practice and you must apply it. But so much we built isn't best practice. It seems to be done by people who either don't know what works, don't understand the legislation and the guidance, or don't apply it. When was the last time the RIBA or the Institution of Civil Engineers or the RTPI struck off someone for being incompetent? Never. I've never heard it. Might whip around the neighbourhood and suggest some names. How do you fix things? I play the game of the blind man's buff. So this is looking at buff paving that has been reinserted the wrong way round, tactile paving or whatever. The very easiest thing to fix but it means looking at the public realm and thinking, oh, that's not how it was before, I better turn it round. This is called the shuffle. They bothered designing a pattern. This was 3 years ago. This place has a business improvement district. But in 3 years, no one has thought, let's get someone to lift these slabs and put them the right way around and reinstate that pattern. This is a stupid shuffle. And you can have fun deciding what's the correct sequence. I enjoy these sort of things. This is the simple rotation, another simple rotation. This was actually done by a pupil of Mondrian, and this is art, so this is acceptable. Why did this? What is this? Is this? It's not a pavement. This was drawn on the plan as a service corridor, where the services go. And someone saw the plan, these 2 lines say where the services go, and said, well, I don't see any pavement. Well, there wasn't pavement. This is meant to be a shared space. So there wasn't meant to be a pavement, but nobody had told the person who was building or designing it that it was meant to be a shared space. So they built a pavement where the service corridor was meant to go, and it's unusable and ridiculous. same developer, different town. Why is there a lamppost in the middle of the pavement? It's not a pavement, it's a service corridor. But of course the cars don't realise it's a shared space, they think it's a parking space. So the only place for pedestrians to go is along the service corridor. And how do we fix this? We get people to talk to each other. When we're building housing, we get the developer and the landscape architect and the highway engineer and the planner and the urban designer to talk, get around the table and to walk around the place, ask the site and say, what sort of place are we trying to create here? Before we get involved in our professional areas of work, what will it feel like to walk along here with a stick or a buggy or on a snowy day? And once we know that, then we can see how we can create that using our professional skill. Woolwich Central got the Carbuncle Award, and this was a blog from someone who said, it was my fault, the chair of the planning committee, and he was saying, yeah, actually, I didn't realise at the time, but this, what we thought was going to be a good piece of town centre development, turned out to be an awful carbuncle because a whole range of things went wrong. Why didn't it get a design review? It did. It got a CADE design review chaired by the chairman of CADE. And it said it'll be a great design, this is a great development, unless these certain things go wrong. And actually they all went wrong. But they went on one by one, and they all looked inevitable, and the developer said, yeah, it's only a tweak, and it created a carbuncle. So it's the process of things going wrong, not just getting a good design, but actually seeing it through to the finish. So this was the Kent Law School, and the architect saying, yeah, this has got planning permission, but what the contractor is planning to build is something that actually loses all the design quality, because they've been back to plans and said, oh, this is easier, cheaper, simpler to do it this way. And suddenly the whole thing is lost. So we need to follow the issue all the way through and understand what makes a good building built. And part of it is urban design, but lots of other things as well. Why is there a patio door there? It's not because somebody said, it would be really nice on a sunny day to open up the patio door and the children could play in the garden. It's not a big garden, it's about 1 foot wide. But they'll be small children, they'll enjoy it and get some fresh air. No, it's just that this happened to be a unit that had patio doors and nobody actually looked at the site or where it was situated in the development. Someone got a fee for designing this. Thank you.